Am I the asshole for telling my son he and his fiancée is spoiled? I'll try to keep this short. My M57 son M23 is engaged to Peggy F22. They have been engaged for 5 months or so. Our culture dictates that Peggy's father and I share the costs for their wedding. Her father said we should provide $10,000 each. A total $20,000 budget. I could afford this, sure, but this seems insane and extravagant to me. I said I would give $5,000 and he could give whatever he wanted. Peggy's father also put up $5,000. I told my son this and he told me outright it wasn't going to be enough. He said I don't mind. I figured that me and Peggy would have to pay for some of the wedding. I asked what he meant. He said no way would they be able to do their wedding in under $10,000. I said my own wedding, after haggling and deals, only came out to around $7,000, so I do not think this is an issue. He argued against me and said that my wedding was 40 years ago and prices were different. He outlined some prices and said the cheapest venue he could find was $5,000. And food alone was going to be $5,000. He again said he didn't mind and he thanked me for giving them money for the wedding, but I honestly felt hurt that he thought we were not giving enough. I said how could food come out to $2,500 and he said that that was only around $25 per person. I suggested ordering pizzas or sub sandwiches, but he looked at me like I was crazy. I said okay, well, we can just offer less for the photographer and decorator, and he said that isn't how things are done. I said it is how things are done. And maybe if Peggy and him weren't so spoiled and expecting the best of the best for everything, then $10,000 would be plenty. After I said this, he just closed his eyes and thanked me for the money and basically told me to get out. I was complaining about this instance to my wife and she told me I was being a stick in the mud and it's his only wedding. My friends agree with me though. Am I the asshole? You're the asshole. Your son was incredibly gracious, but you had to keep pushing. He even thanked you. Do you pay the same price for gas, food, clothes, etc. like 40 years ago? Do you live under a rock? You're the asshole. $7,000 in 1983 is about $24,500 now. So by your logic you should be giving him $12,000. Not $5,000 or $10,000. Obviously you aren't obligated to give him any money. But he kindly accepted the $5,000 you offered and you had no place to then berate him about how he was overspending. And you have no reason to feel hurt over this. You're the asshole and so wildly out of touch. You evidently have no idea how things work now. It's the mentality of my grandparents. Which is understandable as they are in their 90s. You really have no excuse. Was your wedding also a pizza party? You're the asshole. An average wedding these days is about $25,000. Depending on where you live. Your son and future Dill aren't spoiled. They handled this gracefully by making it clear they don't mind paying for some of the wedding themselves and thanking you multiple times for contributing. You calling them spoiled was out of line and you should apologize. Are you also one of the people who acts shocked that students can't pay for a college education outright with their wages from a summer job flipping burgers? You're the asshole. You're the asshole. He was respectful and thankful. Explained why $10,000 would not go far for a wedding at today's prices. Your response was to suggest pizza and subs at a wedding FFS and insult him and his fiancée. Your son is a far better man than you. Yes. You're the asshole. He thanked you for the money and is planning on paying for the rest how they spend their money. Isn't your business. Can you seriously not envision that prices have increased over several decades? You're the asshole. Not for deciding that all you want to give was $5,000. That's fine. You're the asshole for not believing with inflation that a wedding could cost $20,000 just because yours cost $7,000 40 years ago. And then to keep questioning him like he was lying. Why don't you get a quote for a basic wedding from a wedding coordinator? You'll be shocked that throwing a wedding for $10,000 is on the cheaper side. Cutting a ton of corners. He said thanks. He appreciates it. And will put his own money in. End of. You're the asshole. I googled a quick inflation calculator. $7,000 in 1980 equates to just under $26,000 today. So actually your son is talking about a wedding that's cheaper than yours. In other words, this is like you being asked to plan your wedding back in the 80s for less than $2,800. Info. Is this wedding in the US? You're the asshole. $10,000 is barely a bare bones wedding anymore. Also, your son was having a conversation with you. He doesn't seem to have been bitching that you didn't give enough. He just said it wouldn't cover everything and that he was prepared to make up the difference. He is right. You really don't know how things work anymore. You're the asshole. If culture dictates that you and the other father should split the cost, and your son points out how much things cost, you should reflect on that. They are not being spoiled. You are being stingy. You don't ask someone to order pizzas and subs for their wedding dinner. Even after all of this, your son had the decency to thank you for your contribution. If nothing else, you raised a decent person. You're the asshole. For a nice wedding, and I don't mean extravagant, it is roughly $25,000 these days. You are very out of touch with how much inflation has affected the cost of a wedding. You're the asshole. You spent $7,000 of your parents' money when you got married 40 years ago. That would be about $25,000 today. $10,000 today would have been $2,800 when you got married. You are being a hypocrite. You got the best of everything when you got married at your parents' expense. But you expect your son and his fiancée to pay for over half the wedding to get an equivalent celebration. Info. They're prepared to pay. He thanked you for helping. Where's the spoiled part? You're the asshole. I mean, there was a new study that even a casual weekday lunch averages $15. $10,000 is not enough for a car down payment for a house or a wedding anymore. Let's put this in terms of vehicle costs. A Chevy Silverado 2-door short bed work truck sold for new at just over $10,000 in 1983. That same truck, now a work truck, nothing fancy, brand new in 2023, has an MSRP of just over $40,000. If a truck house groceries cost 4x what they did 40 years ago, why wouldn't a wedding cost that much more? You don't have to give him more. But you could admit you have no idea what things cost now. You're the asshole. You're the asshole. How are they acting spoiled? Son thanked you for the money and just explained how things cost more now. You're 57. Have you not noticed inflation creeping up on literally every single thing with a dollar amount over the years? Really?